guys, so today we're going to be talking about a brand new horror movie that was just released today, March 18th, the day I'm filming and posting this video to limited theaters and video on demand, and that is the movie Tethered. I was so honored when the director of Tethered, Dan Robinette, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, reached out to me and wanted to send me, and well, he reached out wanting to put the movie on my radar, which it already was, and he also sent me an early screener for this movie, so thank you so much to Dan for making this review possible on the day it is released. There was no obligation, obviously. I don't have to watch this or talk about this. I'm not sponsored or anything like that, but I do want to review more individual horror movies that are original horrors. You know, I preach all the time that I'm tired of these reboots, remakes, and sequels, so especially when an indie horror movie like this is on the radar, I definitely want to talk about it and share and put it on your radars. I did tell him that I'm going to be doing an honest review, so my opinion is not swayed by the fact that the director himself sent me the screener or anything like that. I just want to make that very clear. You'll always get my honest opinion no matter what. So Tethered is set miles from civilization, where a blind teenager must use a rope attached to his house so as not to wander too far. He befriends a hunter and they both soon are tormented by a mysterious creature lurking in the woods. So Tethered is actually based on a short film by the same director and with the same name, Tethered, and Jared Laufrey plays Solomon, the main character in both the short and the main movie. I'm really glad that it got a full-length feature film because I think this story is really good, and especially good in a, you know, longer movie. This movie is pretty short at only an hour and 28 minutes, I think, something like that, with credits and everything. So the short was released in 2017, and then they had the means to create a full-length film this year, and I do want to say right off the bat that I did enjoy this movie. Now, Dan had told me, almost seemed like he warned me, that this movie was a very slow burn, and it was, definitely. This is a movie that spends a lot of time building the atmosphere and the tension and the setting. It focuses a lot on those aspects versus a lot of character development, or even a lot of horror, action, or plot, or anything like that. This movie is definitely about the setting and the atmosphere. Now, some of my favorite things about this movie, besides the setting, which is filmed in North Carolina in the woods, it is absolutely stunning, and I knew right off the bat, because of that, I would probably enjoy at least the setting, but I do enjoy so much more than that. So I think that the camera work is actually really, really well done. The score, I think the editing is really good as well, and I think these three things in combination with the setting really are effective in creating that atmosphere and that sense of dread. Of course, we know that we're watching a horror movie, so with it being such a slow burn and building up that tension, we're kind of anticipating things are going to happen. Like, obviously something's gonna happen, and it's almost torture in a good way. It was a little bit too much building of the atmosphere and tension and everything like that without enough payoff, in my opinion, but I'll get to that. I do think for the most part, though, it was effective in building that tension. It was almost just like escalating, and nothing was really happening, but we knew something was gonna happen. You know, we're just waiting, building that anticipation of what this creature is, what is it gonna do. Now, I do feel like they spent a little bit too much time building up that anticipation to where we actually got to see, or when we heard something, it wasn't as horrifying or intense as I wanted it to be, which I don't think that's the kind of movie this is trying to be. It's not trying to be a super over-the-top horrific movie. I think there's some symbolism going on in here as well. So there's a lot more to it than just a horror movie. That being said, I think that the horror was a little bit lacking. I just wanted a little bit more out of it because the ending that we get is actually really good and kind of horrific and sad. But overall, it's not a very eventful movie. I feel like they spend a lot of time in the middle on the character dynamics with the hunter and Solomon, and it does work in some ways, and it's going to definitely work for some viewers. But I personally wanted a little bit more horror. Not just the tension of a horror movie, but I wanted actual horror elements. Another criticism I have is that the acting was kind of hit or miss at times. Sometimes it would take me out of it a little bit because I could kind of tell that the actors were acting, and that's not really a good thing. Now, they were working with a very small budget. This is an indie movie, and I think with what they had to work with, this was executed very well. You know, it's done with minimal money, so it's very impressive with what they were able to accomplish, especially the visuals. I think that is the strongest part of this movie, is obviously the atmosphere, like I mentioned, the score, the editing, everything like that. The cameras are very, very nice, obviously. And I think it is a beautiful movie. Like, it's a stunning movie, story and all. I was actually really impressed with the story and the evolution of where the story goes. I do think it was a little bit predictable for me in the end. Like, I kind of knew what was going to be happening with the creature and whatnot. It didn't ruin the reveal or anything for me, or when we actually realized what's happening. It wasn't ruined by the fact that it was a little bit predictable, because it was not exactly what I was thinking of. And I liked the ending. I feel like they weren't afraid to push it a little bit and to make it more emotional, and I think it was really strong. However, the last frame of this movie, I have to say, doesn't work with the rest of the movie. I found the last frame, like the very last second of this movie, was a little bit cheesy and a little cliche of like older horror movies, and not in a good way. They didn't need it. They could have left it off. They could have, you know, had some mystery there. I feel like we just didn't need that to end the story on, especially the way it was executed in the last frame. It just wasn't good. It was probably the weakest part of this movie. It's the last second. I think if they cut the very last second out, it would have been such a strong ending, especially because it could have been open-ended almost. I feel like an open-ended ending for this specific movie would have actually been a lot better. But for a small budget indie movie, I think this was a really solid movie. Like I said, I have my criticisms of it with the acting a little bit. I feel like there wasn't enough balance between focusing on the story and the build-up. Even though there was so much focus on the story and like getting to a certain place, not a lot happens in that time period, and I feel like that could have been shortened down and condensed a little bit to where we actually get some more action. I think if there was just like 2 more horror scenes in the woods, that would have really elevated this movie. I feel like we spend a lot of time in his childhood and like building up that story, which I don't mind the backstory by any means, but I feel like it was a little bit long, and we could have spent even more time on him as a teen, which is the majority of the movie still, but I was kind of waiting for something to happen when he was a child, and I feel like that also could have been shortened, and then more horror elements throughout when he's an actual teenager. However, I give it 3 out of 5 stars overall. It is one that I would recommend, so definitely seek it out. I will give you the same warning, I guess you would say, as Dan did to me. It is a slower burn. This is actually a great movie if you're not a fan of super horrific movies or like exploitative horror movies or anything like that. The tone of Tethered is actually really good for beginners, and if you're not really a fan of horror but you like dramas. I mean, I think this is described as a drama first and foremost, and then with some like thriller, couple horror elements in the end. And overall, I would recommend it. So I would love to know your thoughts on this movie if you've watched it, so leave a comment down below. I will be reviewing X on Monday, and I will be reviewing hopefully Wednesday or Friday. I'm not sure, but I have 3 videos to do for next week. I'm saying this in this video so you can hold me accountable. I want to get the 3 videos done because there's so many horror movies coming out this weekend. It's also my birthday weekend. Tomorrow is my birthday. So yeah, look forward to more individual horror movie reviews. There's a lot coming out in spring. I'm not sure what it is about springtime that we're getting a lot of horror, but I'm not complaining because all of it is pretty much original horror. So that's so exciting. I feel like my wishes were granted getting all this original horror. I'm really excited for X. I'm a little bit nervous about it not being up my alley, but I do really enjoy Ty West, so we're gonna see. Anyway, let me know if there's any other movies you want me to talk about or watch this month to talk about at the end of the month. Leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.